Sticky, dark syrup dripped from Sarah's eyelashes, staining her crisp white uniform and pooling on the polished mahogany floor of the Oakwood Country Club. The cold shock of the ice cubes sliding down her back wasn't nearly as painful as the sound that followed. Raucous, entitled laughter. It echoed off the vaulted ceilings, silencing the entire dining room. "Oops," the man in the designer suit sneered, holding the empty glass like a trophy. "I think you missed a spot, sweetheart." He thought he was just humiliating a clumsy waitress. He didn't know that the woman standing before him wasn't just serving the table. She was the woman whose husband had just bought his father's entire company that morning. This is the story of how a momentary act of cruelty cost a billionaire's son everything he had. The Oakwood Country Club in Greenwich, Connecticut, was the kind of place where the air smelled of old leather, expensive perfume, and silent judgment. For Sarah Miller, it was an escape. To the world, Sarah was a 34-year-old waitress with tired eyes, sensible shoes, and a beat-up Honda Civic parked in the employee lot. She was efficient, quiet, and took abuse with a stoic grace that frustrated the most difficult patrons. To the financial world, however, she didn't exist. But her husband did. Sarah was actually Sarah Bennett, wife of Liam Bennett, the reclusive CEO of Bennett Holdings, a private equity firm that swallowed corporations for breakfast. Liam was worth roughly $12 billion. Sarah worked at the club not because she needed the money, but because she needed the reality. After losing her own small bakery to a corporate buyout years ago, ironically, before she met Liam, she hated the idle life of a trophy wife. She wanted to keep her feet on the ground. She wanted to remember what it was like to work for $1. Liam, fiercely protective but respectful of her independence, had reluctantly agreed, provided she wore a security panic button disguised as a smartwatch. Today, however, reality was biting back hard. It was 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, the peak of the lunch rush. Sarah was assigned to the patio section, overlooking the immaculate golf course. "Table 4 is yours, Miller," the floor manager, Mr. Henderson, barked. Henderson was a short man with a Napoleon complex and a toupee that looked like it was trying to escape his head. He hated Sarah because she never flirted with him and never gossiped. VIPs, Senator Caldwell's son and his entourage. Don't mess it up. Sarah sighed internally. Braden Caldwell, she knew the name. His father was a corrupt politician Liam had complained about over dinner last night. She approached the table. 3 people sat there, radiating an aura of unearned wealth. Braden Caldwell was in his late 20s, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars, with a gold Rolex Submariner flashing on his wrist. Next to him was Brittany, a socialite who spent more time looking at her phone than the menu, and Preston, a sycophantic friend who laughed at everything Braden said. "Good afternoon," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Welcome to Oakwood. Can I start you off with some drinks?" Braden didn't look up. He was busy picking lint off his jacket. "Water, sparkling. And make sure it's San Pellegrino, not that tap water you people bottle in the back." "And a Diet Coke," Brittany said, not looking up from Instagram. "With lime, but like, cut the lime thin. I don't want wedges." "Scotch on the rocks," Preston added. "I'll need to see ID for the scotch, sir," Sarah said politely. The table went silent. Braden slowly turned his head, his eyes cold and dead, like a shark's. "Do you know who we are?" Braden asked, his voice low. "I'm afraid I still need to follow the law, sir," Sarah replied, her face a mask of calm. "Just get the drinks," Braden snapped, waving his hand as if shooing a fly. "Preston is 30. Stop being a nun." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. It wasn't worth the fight. She went to the bar, her heart rate slightly elevated. She had dealt with rude customers before, but Braden had a malicious energy that made her skin crawl. When she returned with the drinks, the harassment began in earnest. "This ice is melted," Braden said immediately, pushing the San Pellegrino away. "Take it back." Sarah looked at the glass. The ice was fresh. "I can bring you more ice, sir." "I said take it back," Braden shouted, causing heads at nearby tables to turn. Sarah took the glass. "I apologize. I'll bring a fresh one." For the next hour, they ran her ragged. The soup was too cold. The salad dressing was too oily. The steak was overcooked. It was a perfect medium rare. Through it all, Sarah remained professional. She imagined Liam's voice in her head, telling her to just walk away. But she was stubborn. She wouldn't let them break her. Then came the check. "Service was garbage," Braden announced loudly as Sarah placed the leather folder on the table. "I'm not tipping. That is your prerogative, sir," Sarah said, reaching for the empty plates. "Wait," Braden smiled. It was a wicked, predatory grin. He picked up his glass. It was a refill of Coca-Cola, full to the brim. "I think you forgot something." "Sir, you forgot to smile," Braden said. "You look miserable. Maybe you need some sugar." Before Sarah could process the threat, Braden pulled his arm back and launched the contents of the glass at her. Splash! The cold, sticky liquid hit her square in the chest. It soaked into her white blouse immediately, turning it transparent and brown. It splashed up onto her face, dripping from her nose and eyelashes. Ice cubes clattered onto the floor. The shock was total. Sarah stood frozen, the sticky liquid seeping into her bra, chilling her skin. The table erupted. Brittany was laughing so hard she dropped her phone. Preston was clapping. Braden looked triumphant, wiping his hand on a napkin. "Look at that," Braden jeered. "Now you look sweet." "What is going on here?" Mr. Henderson came rushing over. Sarah exhaled, wiping soda from her eyes. "Mr. Henderson, this customer just—" "I asked for a refill and she dropped it on herself." Braden lied smoothly, standing up to tower over the manager. "And she splashed my Armani suit. Do you have any idea how much this costs?" Henderson looked at the billionaire's son, then at Sarah. The choice for him was simple. Money over truth. "Sarah, you clumsy idiot," Henderson yelled, his face turning red. "Look at this mess. You've ruined Mr. Caldwell's lunch." "He threw it at me," Sarah said, her voice shaking with suppressed rage. "Check the cameras." "We don't have cameras on the patio to protect member privacy, and you know that," Henderson snapped. "Apologize to Mr. Caldwell, now." Sarah looked at Braden. He was smirking, waiting for her submission. "No," Sarah said. "Excuse me?" Henderson gasped. "I said no. I quit." Sarah took off her apron, letting it drop into the puddle of Coca-Cola. "If you walk out now, don't expect a reference. You'll never work in this town again," Henderson threatened. Sarah looked Henderson dead in the eye. "Mr. Henderson, by this time tomorrow, you're going to wish you had just handed me a towel." She turned and walked away, the sound of Braden's laughter following her all the way to the kitchen. Sarah didn't cry in the car. She sat in the driver's seat of her Honda Civic, shaking, not from sadness, but from pure, unadulterated adrenaline. She reached into her purse and pulled out a sleek, black smartphone, not the cracked iPhone she used as a prop inside the restaurant. She dialed a single number. It rang once. "Hey, beautiful." A deep, warm voice answered. "Shift over early. I was thinking Italian for dinner." "Liam," Sarah said. Her voice cracked. The tone on the other end changed instantly. The warmth evaporated, replaced by a sharp, lethal focus. "Sarah? What's wrong? Where are you?" "I'm in the parking lot at Oakwood. I'm okay, physically. But I need you to do something for me. Name it." I need you to look into Braden Caldwell and the ownership of the Oakwood Country Club." "Caldwell? The senator's kid?" Liam's voice dropped an octave. "Did he touch you?" "He threw a glass of Coke on me, in the middle of the dining room, for fun." Sarah took a breath, wiping a sticky tear from her cheek. "And the manager, Henderson, fired me for it." There was a silence on the line, so profound it felt heavy. When Liam spoke again, his voice was terrifyingly calm. It was the voice he used right before he dismantled a competitor. "Go home, Sarah. Take a hot shower. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Liam, don't do anything illegal," she warned, knowing his temper. "Illegal?" "No," Liam said darkly. "I'm a businessman, Sarah. I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to buy the problem." 2 hours later, Bennett Estate. Liam Bennett paced the floor of his home office. The walls were lined with awards and photos of him with presidents and prime ministers. He was a tall man, 40 years old, with salt and pepper hair and shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of his empire. He was currently on a conference call with his 3 top legal sharks, Reynolds, Cohen, and Graves. "I want everything on Braden Caldwell," Liam commanded, staring out the window at the sprawling lawn. "Debts, investments, secrets, especially where he gets his money." "He's trust fund, Liam," Reynolds replied over the speaker. "All tied up in Caldwell Industries. But he's leveraged. He's been trying to launch a tech startup that's bleeding cash. He's waiting on a liquidity injection from a loan his father is co-signing. And the country club? Oakwood? It's owned by a consortium, mostly local old money. It's struggling, actually. Maintenance costs are up. Membership is down. They're looking for a silent buyer to bail them out." Liam smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Buy it. The club? The club, the land, the parking lot. I want the deed in my name by close of business today. Offer them 20% over market value if they sign within the hour. If they hesitate, drop the offer by half." "Consider it done," Reynolds said. "And the Caldwell boy? Who is his loan with?" "First National of Greenwich. We own a controlling stake in First National, don't we?" "We hold 35%, yes. Enough to sway the board." "Freeze the loan," Liam ordered. "Flag it for compliance review. Indefinite hold." "On what grounds?" "Suspected character flaws," Liam snapped. "Just do it, and get the security footage from the club's interior cameras. Henderson said there were no cameras on the patio, but I know for a fact the security upgrade we consulted on last year installed wide-angle lenses in the eaves. They exist." Liam hung up the phone. He walked upstairs to the master bathroom. Sarah was sitting on the edge of the tub, wrapped in a plush robe, her hair wet. She looked small. Liam knelt before her, taking her hands. "It's handled." "You didn't hurt him, did you?" she asked softly. "Not physically," Liam said, kissing her knuckles. "But by tomorrow morning, Braden Caldwell is going to wish he had never been born." "And Henderson?" "Henderson," Liam's eyes flashed. "I'm saving him for you." The next morning, 10 a.m., the Oakwood Country Club was buzzing. The lunch prep was underway. Mr. Henderson was strutting through the dining room, yelling at the busboys. He felt powerful. He had defended a VIP yesterday and gotten rid of the dead weight waitress. Suddenly, the heavy oak doors at the front entrance swung open. A team of 6 men in dark suits walked in. They moved with military precision. In the center of them was a woman. She wasn't wearing a waitress uniform. She was wearing a tailored Chanel suit in navy blue, sky-high Louboutin heels, and diamond earrings that caught the light like stars. Her hair was blown out in a sleek style, and oversized sunglasses covered her eyes. Henderson squinted. She looked familiar, but the aura of power confused him. He marched over. "Excuse me, Members only at this hour. The dining room isn't open yet." The woman stopped. She slowly removed her sunglasses. Henderson's jaw dropped. "Miller? It's Mrs. Bennet, actually," Sarah said, her voice ringing clear through the silent room. "But you can call me boss." What?" Henderson stammered. "You're fired. Get out before I call the police." One of the men in suits stepped forward. It was Reynolds, Liam's lawyer. He handed Henderson a thick envelope. "Mr. Henderson," Reynolds said efficiently, "as of 9 a.m. this morning, Bennett Enterprises has acquired a 100% controlling interest in Oakwood Country Club. All management contracts are under immediate review." Henderson looked at the papers. His hands began to shake. He looked at Sarah, the waitress who drove a Honda, the waitress he had humiliated. This isn't possible," Henderson whispered. "Oh, it gets better," Sarah said, stepping closer. She pulled a chair out, the very chair Braden had sat in yesterday, and sat down. "We have a reservation. A very special guest is arriving in 10 minutes. I need you to wait on us, Henderson." "Me?" "Yes, you. And if the service is garbage," Sarah smiled, echoing Braden's words, "I won't be tipping." The silence in the Oakwood dining room was heavy, a suffocating blanket that seemed to press down on Mr. Henderson's chest. The air conditioning hummed, usually a comforting background noise, but now it sounded like a countdown. Henderson stared at Sarah Bennet. Yesterday, she had been a smudge on his pristine floor, a disposable employee he could bully to appease a wealthy brat. Today, she sat at table 4, the power table, looking like royalty. The Navy Chanel suit wasn't just clothing, it was armor. Her posture was relaxed, yet every line of her body screamed authority. "Well?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow behind her sunglasses before sliding them off to reveal eyes that were no longer tired, but sharp as flint. "I believe I asked for a menu, Henderson, unless you expect me to guess the specials?" Henderson swallowed. His throat felt like he had swallowed a handful of dry sand. He looked around for support, for anyone to tell him this was a prank. The other staff members, waiters he had yelled at, busboys he had underpaid, hostesses he had leered at, were watching from the periphery. They weren't moving to help him. In fact, he saw a flicker of a smile on the face of Maria, the head chef, peering through the kitchen porthole. "Yes." "Right away, Mrs. Bennet," Henderson stammered. He turned too quickly, his heel catching on the carpet, and nearly stumbled. A flush of humiliation crept up his neck, turning his ears a violent shade of crimson. He rushed to the podium, his hands shaking so badly he dropped 2 menus before managing to grab one. He returned to the table, placing it down. "Open it," Sarah said softly. "Excuse me? Open the menu for the guest, Henderson. That's standard service for a VIP table, isn't it? You screamed that at me last week when I forgot to do it for Mrs. Vanderbilt." Henderson's jaw tightened. He opened the leather-bound folder and held it out. "Thank you," Sarah said, ignoring the menu entirely. "I'll have the sparkling water, San Pellegrino. And Henderson, make sure the ice is fresh. I'd hate to have to send it back." The reference to Braden's cruelty hit Henderson like a physical slap. He scurried to the bar. His mind was racing. Bennett Holdings. He knew the name. Everyone in Greenwich knew the name. If Liam Bennett really bought the club, Henderson wasn't just losing a job. He was losing his entire social standing. He had spent 20 years curating an image of importance, acting as the gatekeeper to the elite. Now the gatekeeper was being locked out. He returned with the water, his hand trembling as he poured. A few drops splashed onto the tablecloth. Sarah stared at the wet spot. She didn't say a word. She just looked at the spot, then at Henderson, then back at the spot. I'll get a fresh cloth, Henderson whispered, sweating profusely now. Leave it, Sarah said, her voice turning icy. It matches the quality of management this establishment has seen lately. At that moment, the front doors opened again. The atmosphere in the room shifted from tense to electric. Liam Bennett walked in. He didn't walk like a man entering a restaurant. He walked like a man entering his own living room. He wore a charcoal grey three-piece suit that fit him with architectural precision. He didn't look at the staff. He didn't look at the decor. His eyes were locked on Sarah. He crossed the room in long, confident strides. Henderson instinctively took a step back, nearly knocking over a chair. He had seen Liam Bennett in magazines, on the news, usually shaking hands with people who ran countries. Seeing him in person was different. The man radiated a dangerous kind of gravity. Liam reached the table and leaned down, kissing Sarah on the cheek. Sorry I'm late, darling. I was finalizing the demolition permits. Henderson choked. Demolition? Liam turned slowly, acting as if he had just noticed a fly buzzing near his ear. He looked Henderson up and down, his expression one of mild distaste. Who is this? Liam asked Sarah, though he knew exactly who it was. This is Mr. Henderson, Sarah said pleasantly. He was just serving me water. He's the manager who handled the incident yesterday. Liam's eyes darkened. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He took a step toward Henderson. Liam was 6'2". Henderson was 5'7". The physical disparity was intimidating, but the difference in power was astronomical. Ah, Liam said. The sound was deep, rumbling in his chest. The man who values a suit over a human being. Mr. Bennett, sir, Henderson began, his voice cracking into a squeak. It was a misunderstanding. I was trying to de-escalate. You fired my wife because a boy threw soda on her. Liam cut him off. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. The quiet precision of his words was far more terrifying. You humiliated her. You threatened her career. I didn't know, Henderson pleaded, wringing his hands. She was just a waitress. She used the name Miller. She is a person, Liam said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried across the silent room. And you failed to protect your staff. That is the first rule of leadership, Mr. Henderson. Loyalty down is just as important as loyalty up. Liam turned to Reynolds, the lawyer standing by the entrance. Reynolds? Yes, Mr. Bennett? Is the paperwork ready? Signed and filed. Liam turned back to Henderson. Mr. Henderson, you are relieved of your duties effective immediately. You are also barred from the premises. If you step foot on this property, which includes the golf course, the parking lot, and the private drive, you will be arrested for trespassing. But my pension, Henderson gasped. I've been here 20 years. We reviewed the books this morning, Sarah spoke up. It seems there are some irregularities in the wine inventory, Henderson. Bottles of vintage Bordeaux disappearing, showing up on secondary markets. Henderson went pale. We're auditing the last 10 years, Liam added. If we find what I think we'll find, you won't just be unemployed, you'll be indicted. Now get out of my sight. Henderson looked around one last time. The waiters were openly smiling now. He realized with a sinking heart that he had no allies. He had ruled by fear, and now that the fear was gone, he was nothing. He turned and walked out the door, a broken man, his footsteps echoing the end of his small, petty reign. Liam sat down opposite Sarah and took her hand. Better? A little, Sarah admitted, a small smile playing on her lips. But the real problem is still out there. Braden, Liam nodded. He checked his watch. Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is starting right now. 5 miles away, in a penthouse apartment overlooking the Long Island Sound, Braden Caldwell woke up with a headache that felt like a drill boring into his right temple. The bedroom was a mess of designer clothes, empty bottles, and the lingering smell of stale, expensive cologne. He groaned, rolling over and shielding his eyes from the midday sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He reached for his phone on the nightstand. 11:30 a.m. He had missed 3 meetings, but he didn't care. He was Braden Caldwell. People waited for him. He unlocked his screen and frowned. There were 47 missed calls. "Jesus," he muttered. "Is the world ending?" Most of the calls were from his father, Senator Caldwell. That wasn't unusual. The old man was always nagging him about responsibility and optics. But there were also calls from his broker, his bank, and oddly, the dealership where he leased his Aston Martin. Braden decided to ignore them all. He needed coffee and a hair of the dog. He walked into his sleek, modern kitchen and tapped the espresso machine. While it whirred, he opened his banking app to check his balance. He was planning a trip to St. Bart's next week and needed to transfer some funds. He logged in. The loading wheel spun for a second, then the screen flashed red. "Account frozen. Contact branch immediately." "What the hell?" Braden tapped the screen aggressively. He tried his other account. Account frozen. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at the back of his neck. He tried his credit card portal. Card suspended. "This is a mistake," he said aloud, his voice sounding thin in the empty apartment. "Stupid bank algorithms." He dialed the private client line for First National of Greenwich. Usually, a human picked up within 2 rings. Today, he got hold music for 10 minutes. Finally, a voice answered. Not his usual banker, Susan, who always flirted with him. This was a man's voice, clipped and professional. First National Compliance Department. "Compliance? I didn't ask for compliance," Braden snapped, falling back into his default mode of arrogance. "I want Susan. My accounts are locked. Fix it." "Mr. Caldwell," the voice said calmly, "Susan is no longer handling your portfolio. Your accounts have been flagged for a suspicious activity review." "Suspicious activity? I bought bottle service at a club last night. That's not suspicious." "The review comes from the overarching risk committee, sir. It involves your outstanding business loan for Caldwell Tech." "My father co-signed that loan," Braden screamed. "Do you know who he is?" "We are aware of the guarantor, sir. However, the loan has a clause regarding reputational risk and character conduct. We've received information that has triggered a default clause. The bank is calling in the loan." "Calling it in? That's $5 million. I don't have that liquid." "Then we will begin seizing collateral, including the contents of your investment accounts and your current residence." "You can't do this," Braden yelled, spitting onto his marble countertop. "I'm going to call my father." "We've already spoken to the senator, sir. He declined to intervene." The line went dead. Braden stood there, the phone slipping from his sweaty grip. His father had declined? That was impossible. His father always cleaned up his messes. His phone rang again. It was Preston. "Dude!" Preston's voice was shaky. "Are you seeing the news?" "I don't watch the news, Preston. My bank is screwing me." "No, Braden. Check Twitter. Check Instagram. You're trending." Braden's stomach dropped. He opened Twitter. Oakwood Bully was the #1 trending topic in Connecticut. He clicked it. Someone had filmed it. Not from the patio cameras. There weren't any. But from a table nearby. A grainy cell phone video showed Braden, clear as day, laughing maniacally as he threw the soda. The audio was crisp. "Oops, I think you missed a spot, sweetheart." The video had 2 million views. The comments were a landslide of vitriol. What a piece of trash. Daddy's money can't buy class. Boycott Caldwell Industries. Then Braden saw the post that made his blood freeze. It was from a gossip account called Greenwich Whispers. Breaking. The waitress assaulted by Braden Caldwell is actually Sarah Bennett, wife of Liam Bennett, CEO of Bennett Holdings. Rumor has it Liam is on a war path. R.I.P. Braden. Braden fell to his knees. The floor felt hard and cold. Sarah Bennett. He had thrown a Diet Coke on the wife of the man who owned half the state. No, Braden hyperventilated. He scrambled up. He had to fix this. He had to apologize. If he apologized, maybe Liam Bennett wouldn't destroy him. He could spin it. He could say he was drunk, that he was under stress. He needed to get to the club. He needed to find her. He didn't bother showering. He pulled on jeans and a hoodie, grabbed his keys and ran out the door. He sprinted to his car in the garage, his beloved Aston Martin. He pressed the unlock button on the fob. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Nothing. A tow truck backed around the corner of the garage, its reverse beep echoing loudly. Two large men jumped out. "Hey!" Braden shouted, running toward them. "Get away from my car!" One of the men held up a clipboard. "Braden Caldwell." "Yes, don't touch my car." "Repo order," the man said. Bored. "Lease payments were flagged as defaulted by the financing bank about an hour ago. We're taking it." "You can't take it. I'm good for it." "Talk to the bank, buddy. We just drive the truck." They hooked up the Aston Martin in under 2 minutes. Braden watched, helpless, as his status symbol was dragged away. He was stranded. He called an Uber, his hands shaking so hard he could barely type the address. His credit card on file was declined. He had to switch to his emergency debit card, praying it still worked. It did. The ride to Oakwood Country Club felt like it took hours. Braden sat in the back of a Toyota Camry that smelled of pine air freshener, checking his phone every 3 seconds. The hate comments were multiplying. His father's office had released a statement. Senator Caldwell condemns all acts of disrespect and is handling this matter privately. His own father was disowning him publicly to save his polling numbers. The Uber pulled up to the gates of Oakwood. "I can't go in, man," the driver said. "Gates are closed." Braden looked up. The usually open wrought-iron gates were shut tight. A new security guard booth had been erected, or at least a temporary one. 2 men in black tactical gear stood by the entrance. They weren't the sleepy old rent-a-cops the club used to employ. These guys looked like ex-military. "Just let me out here," Braden said. He scrambled out of the car and ran toward the gate. "I need to get in," Braden shouted at the guards. "I'm a member. My name is Braden Caldwell." The guard on the left didn't even blink. He looked at a tablet in his hand. "Caldwell," the guard said, "you're on the exclusion list." "Exclusion list? I've been a member since I was 5. Let me in. I need to speak to Sarah. To Mrs. Bennett." "Mrs. Bennett is having lunch," the guard said impassively. "She is not to be disturbed." "You don't understand. My life is falling apart." Braden grabbed the bars of the gate, shaking them. "Tell her I'm here. Tell her I'm sorry." A black SUV pulled up behind Braden. The window rolled down. It was Preston. "Braden!" Preston hissed. "Get in." "Preston, thank God. Use your membership card. Get us in." Preston looked at him with pity, mixed with fear. "I can't, man. They just emailed everyone. Anyone who brings you in as a guest loses their membership, permanently. And Bennett Holdings just bought the mortgage on my dad's firm. I can't be seen with you." "What?" Braden stared at his friend. "We've been best friends since prep school." "Yeah, well, prep school doesn't pay the rent," Preston said. "You're radioactive, Braden. I just came to tell you. Don't call me." The SUV peeled away, leaving Braden standing in the dust. He was alone. No car, no money, no friends, and the gates to his sanctuary were locked tight. But Braden was desperate, and desperation breeds stupidity. He looked at the perimeter fence. It was high, covered in ivy. He knew a spot near the 12th hole where the ground dipped. He could squeeze under. He had to beg for forgiveness. He had to make Sarah see it was just a joke. He began to run along the perimeter, his expensive sneakers sliding on the grass. He was breaking into the club he used to rule. The irony was lost on him. All he could think about was the look in Sarah's eyes yesterday. He had thought it was defeat. Now he realized it was patience. He found the gap in the fence. He crawled through the mud, ruining his hoodie, scraping his hands. He popped out near the fairway. He sprinted across the golf course, dodging surprised golfers, heading straight for the clubhouse patio. He could see people dining. He could see her. She was still at the table. Liam was there too. Braden burst onto the patio, panting, covered in dirt and sweat. The diners gasped. The clinking of silverware stopped. "Sarah!" Braden screamed, his voice cracking. "Sarah, please!" Liam stood up. He didn't rush. He simply turned his body to shield Sarah, his face a mask of absolute, terrifying calm. "Mr. Caldwell," Liam said, his voice projecting easily across the patio. "We were wondering when you'd show up." Braden fell to his knees on the stone patio, right where he had stood yesterday. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know who you were. Please tell them to stop. The bank, the car, my dad. Please." Sarah stood up. She walked around Liam. She looked down at Braden, currently sobbing on the floor. "You didn't know who I was," Sarah repeated softly. "And that's the problem, Braden. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them with basic human dignity." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," Braden wept. "Are you sorry?" Sarah asked, tilting her head. "Or are you just poor?" The question hung in the air, heavy and brutal. "I'll do anything," Braden begged. "I'll wait tables. I'll clean the floors. Just give me my life back." Sarah looked at Liam. A silent communication passed between them. "Interesting proposition," Liam said. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He tossed it onto the ground in front of Braden. "What is this?" Braden sniffled. "An employment contract," Liam said. "Since you're so eager to work." Braden unfolded it. His eyes widened. "Dishwasher?" "The position is open," Sarah said. "Minimum wage, no tips. You start now. If you last 6 months, maybe we'll talk to the bank about unfreezing one of your accounts." Braden looked at the contract. He looked at the guests staring at him with disgust. He looked at Sarah, the woman he had tried to break. He realized he had no choice. He had absolutely nowhere else to go. I'll take it," Braden whispered. "Good," Sarah pointed toward the kitchen doors. "The apron is in the back. And Braden?" He looked up. "Don't miss a spot." The kitchen of the Oakwood Country Club was a violent ecosystem. It was a place of fire, steel, shouting, and steam. To the patrons dining on the other side of the double-swinging doors, the kitchen was an abstraction, a magical place where lobster bisque simply appeared. To Braden Caldwell, it was hell. It had been 3 weeks, 21 days of blistering heat and wet socks. Braden stood at the deep, industrial sink, his hands submerged in water that was scalding hot and grey with grease. The harsh chemical smell of the industrial detergent burned his nostrils, a stark contrast to the sandalwood and amber colognes he used to wear. His Armani suit was gone, replaced by baggy, checked kitchen trousers and a white jacket that was already stained with tomato sauce and gravy. "Caldwell, move it!" Chef Maria roared from the pass. She was a terrifying woman, with forearms thick from kneading dough and a temper that could curdle milk. "We need those steak knives now. Table 7 is waiting." "I'm going as fast as I can," Braden snapped back, instinctively. The kitchen went silent. The sous-chef stopped chopping. The line "cooks" froze. Chef Maria walked over slowly, holding a ladle like a weapon. She leaned in, close to Braden's face. "You speak when spoken to, dishwasher. You are not a guest. You are the slime at the bottom of the barrel. If those knives aren't polished, and on the line in 30 seconds, you're staying until 2:30 a.m. to scrub the grout with a toothbrush. Do you understand?" Braden gritted his teeth. His ego screamed at him to throw the sponge in her face and walk out. But he couldn't. Liam Bennett had been thorough. Braden had no car, no credit cards, and no apartment. He was currently sleeping on a cot in a small storage room above the club's maintenance shed. Part of the employment package Liam had graciously offered. If he quit, he was on the street. "Yes, chef," Braden mumbled. "I can't hear you." "Yes, chef," Braden shouted, scrubbing the knives furiously. As he worked, he caught glimpses of the dining room through the small circular window in the swinging door. He saw people he knew. There was Brittany, his former friend, laughing with a new guy who drove a Porsche. There was Preston, keeping his head down, terrified to look toward the kitchen. They were eating the food he was cleaning up after. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing on his chest, making it hard to breathe. But the worst part wasn't the work. It was the isolation. He was a pariah. The other kitchen staff, immigrants, working-class locals, people he had never looked at twice in his life, despised him. They knew what he had done to Sarah. To them, Sarah was a hero. She had come from their world, ascended, and come back to defend them. Braden was the enemy. Around 9 Mahawatanaj p.m., the rush slowed down. Braden was hauling a heavy bag of trash out to the dumpster in the back alley. The air was cool, a relief from the inferno of the kitchen. He hefted the bag into the compactor and leaned against the brick wall, lighting a cheap cigarette he had bummed from a busboy. "Enjoying the night air?" Braden jumped. Sarah stood there. She wasn't wearing her power suit tonight. She was wearing jeans and a simple cashmere sweater, looking more like the woman he had tormented than the billionaire wife. But the authority was undeniable. "Mrs. Bennett," Braden said, stamping out the cigarette. "I was just taking out the trash." "I see that," Sarah said. She leaned against the railing, watching him. "Chef Maria tells me you're slow, but your silverware is clean." "I'm trying," Braden said bitterly. "Is this the part where you mock me? Kick me while I'm down?" "I don't need to kick you, Braden. You did this to yourself," Sarah said calmly. "I came to give you something." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Braden's heart leapt. Was it money? A reprieve? He took it and opened it. It wasn't a check. It was a letter. Handwritten. "What is this?" "Read it," Sarah said. Braden squinted in the dim security light. It was a letter from his father, Senator Richard Caldwell, but it wasn't addressed to him. It was addressed to Liam Bennett. "Dear Mr. Bennett, regarding the unfortunate situation with my son, Braden. I understand he has caused significant offense. Please understand that Braden has always been difficult. If cutting him off is the price for maintaining a positive relationship between Bennett Holdings and my office regarding the impending zoning legislation, so be it. The boy needs a lesson. Do with him what you will. I wash my hands of the matter. Sincerely, Senator Richard Caldwell Braden stared at the paper. The words swam before his eyes. He traded me? For zoning permits, Sarah said softly. Liam didn't even ask him to cut you off, Braden. We just asked for an apology. Your father offered up your financial execution as a bargaining chip to ensure Liam didn't fund his opponent in the next election. No, Braden whispered. He loves me. I'm his only son. He loves power, Sarah corrected. And right now, you're a liability to that power. Braden crumbled. He slid down the brick wall until he was sitting on the dirty concrete. The realization hit him harder than the loss of the money. His entire safety net, the psychological belief that he was special and protected, was a lie. He wasn't a prince. He was a pawn. "Why are you showing me this?" Braden asked, looking up at her with red-rimmed eyes. "To hurt me more?" "No," Sarah said. "Because I need you to wake up. You're angry at the wrong people. You hate me, you hate Liam, you hate the chef. But we're the only ones actually giving you a chance to earn your existence. Your father? He threw you away like a used napkin." Sarah pushed off the railing. "There's a box of files in the old manager's office, Henderson's office. We're turning it into a wine cellar. I need it cleared out by tomorrow morning." "That's your extra shift." "Files?" Braden asked numbly. "Old invoices, vendor contracts, boring stuff. Just shred it all." Sarah turned to leave, then stopped her. "Or read it. It doesn't matter to me. Just get it done." She walked away, leaving Braden alone in the alley with the letter that proved his father's betrayal. Braden didn't go back to the kitchen immediately. He sat there, a cold fury building in his gut. It wasn't the entitled rage of a spoiled child anymore. It was something colder, something focused. He stood up, wiped his face, and walked back inside. He didn't go to the dish pit. He went straight to Henderson's old office. The alley behind the kitchen smelled of stale beer and wet cardboard. Braden sat on a crate, nursing a cigarette he'd bummed from a busboy, his hands raw and stinging from the industrial detergent. "Enjoying the view?" Braden jumped. Sarah stood by the back door. She wasn't wearing her power suit tonight. She was in jeans and a cashmere sweater, looking deceptively normal. "I'm on my break," Braden muttered, defensive. "I know," Sarah said. She walked over and held out a folded piece of paper. "I thought you should see this. It arrived at Liam's office this morning." Braden took it. It was a handwritten note on Senate stationery. "Dear Mr. Bennett, regarding my son, do what you must. If cutting him off ensures our zoning discussions remain fruitful, so be it. The boy is a liability. I wash my hands of the matter. Senator Richard Caldwell." Braden stared at the elegant cursive. The words blurred. He traded me. For zoning permits? "He views you as a bad asset," Sarah said coldly. "Liam didn't even ask him to cut you off. Your father offered your financial execution as a bargaining chip." Braden crumpled the letter, his chest heaving. His entire life, he had believed he was the Prince of Greenwich. In reality, he was just a pawn. "Why show me this?" he whispered. "Because I have a job for you," Sarah said. "Henderson's old office in the basement is full of files. We're converting it into a wine cellar. I need it cleared out tonight. Shred everything." She paused, her eyes locking onto his. "Unless, of course, you find something worth keeping." She turned and left him alone in the dark. An hour later, Braden was in the claustrophobic, dusty basement office. The shredder hummed rhythmically as he fed it stack after stack of boring invoices. It was mindless work until he reached a box pushed deep under the desk, labeled, "Misc, do not touch." Curiosity pricked at him. He tore the tape. Inside were bank statements, not for the club, but for a shell company called Apex Meridian LLC. Braden froze. He knew that name. It was a top donor to his father's super PAC. He flipped through the pages. Apex Meridian was paying Oakwood Country Club $50,000 a month for consulting. He dug deeper and found the printed emails between Henderson and his father's private account. From Senator Caldwell to Henderson. Subject: renovation budget, wash another $200K through the kitchen remodel. Inflate the contractor invoices. I need the cash liquid by Friday." Braden felt bile rise in his throat. It wasn't just donations, it was money laundering. His father was using the club to clean bribe money. And the dates matched perfectly with Braden's own life events. A $50,000 withdrawal from the club followed the next day by a $50,000 deposit into Braden's trust fund for his new car. His Aston Martin, his clothes, his entire identity. It was all paid for with dirty money. He wasn't a wealthy heir. He was the beneficiary of a racketeering scheme. Braden stood over the shredder. If he destroyed this box, his father was safe. Maybe, just maybe, he could leverage it to get his allowance back. He could go back to being the golden boy. But then he looked at the crumpled letter in his pocket. The boy is a liability. His father didn't love him. His father was a crook who had raised a monster. Braden grabbed the box. He didn't shred it. He tucked it under his arm and marched up the stairs, ignoring the fatigue in his legs. The main lounge was dim, lit only by the fireplace. Liam and Sarah were sitting there, reviewing architectural plans. They looked up as Braden burst in, covered in dust, clutching the cardboard box like a weapon. "Braden?" Liam stood, his expression unreadable. "I found it," Braden said, his voice shaking. He slammed the box onto the coffee table. "Apex Meridian, the fake renovations, the laundering. It's all there." Liam looked at the box, then at Sarah. A small, knowing look passed between them. "You knew?" Braden realized. "We suspected," Sarah said softly. "That's why Liam bought the club, to get the books. But Henderson scrubbed the servers. We needed the paper originals. We needed someone to find them in the one place no one looks. The trash." "It was a test," Braden whispered. "You sent me down there to see if I'd protect him." "We gave you a choice," Liam corrected. "Burn the evidence and save the man who sold you out, or bring it to the light." Braden looked at his hands. They were dirty, calloused, and shaking. But for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel ashamed. "He made me think I was better than everyone else, because I had money," Braden said, his voice cracking. "But the money was stolen. I don't want it. I just want to be clean." "Then you will be," Sarah said. She stood and poured a glass of water from a pitcher on the table. She handed it to him. "Reynolds is on his way with the FBI. You're going to be their star witness. It's going to be ugly, Braden. You'll be the son who turned in his father." "I'm already the guy who threw soda on a waitress," Braden said with a dry, sad laugh. "I think I can handle a little more bad press." "Good," Liam said, picking up the box. "Go shower. You smell like a basement." "Am I fired?" Braden asked, dread pooling in his stomach. "Fired?" Sarah smiled, a genuine warmth returning to her eyes. "No, you're promoted. Starting tomorrow, you're a barback. You get to handle the clean glasses." Braden nodded, tears stinging his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Sarah warned. "If I see a single water spot on those glasses, you're back in the dish pit." "Understood," Braden said. As he walked away, he realized that for the first time, he wasn't walking away from a mess he made. He was walking toward a solution. The trial of Senator Caldwell was the final nail in the coffin of the old regime. With Braden's testimony and the Apex Meridian files Sarah had guided him to, the corruption scheme was laid bare. The senator was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, and the Caldwell family assets were seized. Braden lost his inheritance, his status, and his childhood home. But as he walked out of the courthouse, he realized he had gained something far more valuable: his freedom from the lies. 1 year later, Oakwood Country Club had transformed. Under Bennett ownership, the toxic air of exclusivity was replaced by a vibrant, welcoming community. Sarah and Liam stopped by for lunch, choosing to sit at the very table on the patio where the Coca-Cola incident had occurred. "Sparkling water? Extra ice?" a familiar voice asked. Sarah turned to see Braden. He wasn't wearing a designer suit, but a crisp black staff uniform. He looked healthier, his posture strong and humble. "Thanks, Braden," Sarah smiled. "I heard you made assistant manager." "I did," Braden replied, pouring the water with practiced care, not spilling a drop. "It pays a lot less than my old allowance, but for the first time in my life, I actually earned it." He paused, looking at Sarah with genuine gratitude. "Thank you for not letting me drown." "You saved yourself, Braden," Sarah said softly. "We just handed you the mop." He nodded, winking as he walked away to help a young family at the next table. Sarah raised her glass to the sunlight. The water was cold, clean, and refreshing. The stain was finally gone, and the mess was cleaned up for good. And that is how a billionaire heiress disguised as a waitress taught a spoiled heir the hardest lesson of his life. Braden lost his fortune, but he found his self-respect. It's a powerful reminder: never judge someone by their uniform, because the person you mistreat might just own the building you're standing in. What do you think? Did Braden deserve a second chance, or should Sarah have ruined him completely? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story of karma and redemption, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about twists, justice, and the truth coming out. Thanks for watching.